Hi everyone, this is Mariah Rossel, founder of Healing the Betrayed Soul. And I wanted to talk to you guys today about the idea of how does betrayal fit into the architecture, the structure of MAP training. So for a while, I'm sure you've been seeing that I have been promoting and advertising a workshop that my teacher and mentor Nina Mayani and I are going to be doing next weekend in Boulder, Colorado, March 16th through 18th. So Thursday night, which is actually the 15th, is a free 2-hour workshop. And then Friday night, all day Saturday, and Sunday is the workshop proper. And Sunday is actually a sweat lodge, whereas Friday and Saturday are going to be mostly workshop style in Boulder. And so I created a meetup group, and we've been having some really great weekly conference calls with Nino talking about this work. And I got a call from somebody the other day just who didn't quite understand how the idea of betrayal and being betrayed fit into this idea of MAP training. And I realized that was a really good point, because all of these Tuesday workshops have been focusing on different areas of the shadow or different tools and techniques that we use in MAP training, but we hadn't actually addressed the topic of, well, why is MAP training a part of healing the betrayed soul? And so MAP training in a nutshell, so there is a MAP and then there's MAP training. And so there's an actual physical map of how to go through the process of being betrayed, exiting what we call the sick kingdom. So this is the place where there's addictions and disease, and you're broke, you're unhappy, all of those things. And then you go through this process where literally everything kind of falls apart. And then you go through the process of finding your medicine, finding your healing, and then finding what we call the shift. The shift is now you finally have an idea of what you're even doing in the mystery. And I did a video on the mystery yesterday, if you want to check that out. And now it's time to confront the shadow and then go to what we call the glass mountain and receive the benefit, receive the lessons of the work. And then once you've received those lessons, it's time to bring that back to the kingdom, bring it back home. Because if you do the work, if you do any work involving state experiences, whether this is ceremonial work or meditation work or self-help guru retreats, whatever you're doing, if you do really intense work and then you never bring it back, then it's just chasing a high. You're going from one state experience to another state experience. You're chasing a high. You're never actually integrating that into your work. And so the idea, how does betrayal fit into all of this work? So this work takes place in that idea of the mystery, like I said, I talked about yesterday, or maybe it was 2 days ago. And so going into the mystery is scary. Nobody likes to go into the mystery. I mean, I love going into the mystery, but it's still scary. It's still painful. Because we would much rather stay in this place where we're uncomfortable, but we know what we're uncomfortable with. We know the pain that we're experiencing. We know what hurts. We know all of those things. But to take that leap of faith and go into the mystery where we have no idea what's there. We don't know how much it's going to hurt. We don't know what we're going to find there. And we don't really want to be shown how wrong we have been. And it's not about being wrong as much as I think it's about admitting that our understandings came from times where we didn't know enough or our perspective wasn't broad enough. And so this could be, ideas and beliefs that you developed in childhood. You just didn't know better, right? And going through this annihilation process is really painful. And if we look at just basic stages of change, going from pre-contemplation to contemplation is painful. Getting past that denial and saying, I've done something that hurt myself. I've done something that hurt other people. I've done something that's not in my highest potential and highest good. It's not in my path. That alone is hard. And so the idea is that one has experienced a betrayal, and that betrayal is enough to give them the courage to go into the mystery. If we look at courage, what is courage? Courage is knowing that something is going to hurt, knowing that something's going to be painful, and doing it anyways. I would say there probably aren't any people that have been warriors and gone into scary situations, or whatever the situation was, and there wasn't some level of fear. Because if there wasn't fear, there wasn't a little bit of trepidation, then you're living in this state of denial. And so this is not about denying, it's about acknowledging that you're going somewhere. You don't know where you're going, you don't know what you're getting, but you know enough to say, where I'm now isn't working. What I've done so far isn't working. And I don't know how I'm going to solve this, but I'm willing to take that chance. I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to change something in order to have it align better. And we can look at it of, we can't solve problems with the same level of consciousness that created them, right? And so your consciousness, you created yourself. We are all the accumulation of every single thought, belief, experience that we have ever had. And so we accumulate all of these experiences, and that creates us right here, right now. And so we put ourselves in this situation where we're hurting. We put ourselves in this situation where things just aren't lining up and they're just not working. And so we can't really put ourselves where we need to go, because if we knew where we needed to go, we would already be there. If we knew how to do it, we would already be there. And so if we look at this not of a, I can't do it, or I'm not good enough to do it, just I currently lack the knowledge and the understanding to get there, then that's super liberating and super freeing. You're not holding on to the I should or I'm not good enough. It's just, this is where I am and I can move forward from here. And so without that betrayal, without that incredible, painful situation, we wouldn't have that courage to go into the mystery, to find our true selves, and to walk the path that we are meant to be walking. And maybe meant to be walking puts you back into that state of should, but maybe it's the path of least resistance, most joy that we would like to be walking, that gives us joy to be walking, right? It's about finding those resonances with the highest vibration energies, highest vibration emotions. There's actually a lovely book out there, Power versus Force, where he took the Hertz frequencies of different emotions. If you are into the Abraham Hicks Law of Attraction stuff, same thing, the emotion order is slightly different, but it's still the same idea of how do we tap, the emotions have frequencies, and then we can tap into these various Hertz frequencies. And so the idea of map training is, how do you get yourself and in your life into those higher level frequency vibrations, and then make your choices from those places. And it's not that you were wrong for being in what we call the sick kingdom. It's not that you're wrong or you did anything bad to get you where you were. You just didn't know better. You didn't have enough wisdom, enough knowledge, enough perspective. You're just where you are. And so now this betrayal has given you this greatest opportunity. And one of the things that I personally like to do a lot of work with is the Ho'oponopono work. And so this is the work of Hugh Len, and or the Maori tribe in Hawaii. And so you've probably heard of Ho'oponopono before, and people will roughly translate it into, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And it's so much more than just these words. It's about, how do you tap into these frequencies and say, this is just what is, and I'm willing to transmute and transform this energy. And so that's also kind of what map training is doing, is it's not making you wrong. It's just saying, this is where you're at, and how can we now do the deep work, dive deep, jump into the mystery, and do all of those things so that you can transform. And but where I was going with this and related to the betrayal is, so often when we're betrayed, when we're hurt, we want to say, I didn't do anything wrong, that person hurt me. And that person very well may have hurt you. And you may have been completely innocent. If we look at, why do people hurt children? Children are innocent. They didn't manifest this. It was just how it showed up in their life. But if we can look at that betrayal and the person that betrayed us and say, this was an experience for me to go on my journey and to learn something. And honor and acknowledge that person or archetype or energy, because betrayal doesn't have to just be a person. A lot of people that I work with, we talk about betrayals from lovers or from family or an illness, but betrayal could be, my generation. We were all told, go to college, you'll get a job. There's not a lot of people that went to college and got a job that could pay for much. So there was a betrayal by culture in that sense, right? So we can be betrayed by all sorts of things. But if we can, instead of looking at that betrayal as the enemy, instead of creating this polarity, and that betrayal does inherently come from the shadow consciousness, and so that's another big thing we talk about in map training, is shadow consciousness. The betrayal comes from the shadow, and what we have to do with the shadow is not push it away, not avoid it, but we have to create a relationship with the shadow. We have to know it, because if we just push it away, if we avoid it, that's denial. But what we're doing is we're going from being the hunted, where the shadow is chasing after us, to being the hunter, where we're chasing after the shadow. And so we're going to the point where we are having the shadow seek us out, or rather, we're going to the place where we're seeking the shadow out, rather than being afraid of the shadow seeking us out. And the shadow, again, that shadow consciousness is what caused that betrayal. And so the betrayal is all about how do we really look at that and create a relationship with that. And then one of the other things that we work with a lot in map training, and I'm sorry this gets convoluted, there's a lot to this, is that we work with Lakota spirituality. And one of the things that, if you've ever gone to a sweat lodge or any Lakota prayer ceremonies, you'll hear people say, Aho Matakwiyase. The word Matakwiyase means all my relations. I'm praying to all of my relations. And I am related to all things, including the shadow. And so how do I create that relationship with the shadow, acknowledge the shadow within me? And so one of the things that I like to do is I like to look at the shadow consciousness, however it's showing up in my life. It shows up in all sorts of weird ways. And instead of rejecting and pushing away whatever it is that I am rejecting, I actually find that energetic vibration in the field of that energy and take that into the energetic field of myself and say, where is that energy that hurt me, that energy that betrayed me, outside there, inside me? Because the only thing I can change is myself, right? And so how do I change myself? How do I do my work? Because when I change myself, inherently all of the relationships that I have change, which changes the world. And so that, in a nutshell, is how betrayal is a foundational part of map training. So thank you everybody who's tuned in. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you're on the Facebook video, if you want to like or heart this video, leave comments. If you have any questions, please leave comments. I'm happy to answer the questions. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. And if you're really interested about this, let me know. We do weekly calls on Tuesday nights at 7:30 Mountain Time, 6:30 California time. And we are having a workshop in Boulder, Colorado coming up next weekend. Thursday night, 7 to 9 p.m. is free. And then Friday night through Sunday is a paid workshop. And Friday night and all day Saturday are going to be workshop, and Sunday is a sweat lodge that helps to integrate all that work. So I'd love to have you come to the workshop. And thank you so much. Have a great day. All right, bye-bye.